I think I'm in focus. Hello. Today's going to be a little bit different. I usually either do some kind of like music thing for you, but what I'm going to do today is talk about something that I'm going to be doing in the next month and a couple of weeks, I would say. I'm heading to America! What I'm going to be doing is actually dropping lots of things that I need for this video. That's good. Turns out I didn't actually need those things. That's even better. I'm going to Los Angeles, Hollywood, and I am going to be hiking the Hollywood Hills. It's something that I've wanted to do for a ridiculous amount of time. I can't even tell you how many times I've looked at that. I'm on a spinny chair, that's why I'm moving. I have wanted to do this for a really, really long time, and just also a personal mission for me, because I'm not a fit person. I'm very, very unfit. In fact, if you know me, you will know that I would rather take a bus to my work, which is about a 5-minute walk, rather than walking it. What I'm going to be doing is hiking the Hollywood Hills, and it is a 4-mile walk up, I believe, and a 4-mile walk down. That's an 8-mile walk. That's a lot of walking for me. But I thought at the same time as doing this walk just for me as a personal mission, I'm actually also going to be doing it for a charity. The charity is called Behçet's Syndrome, or Behçet's Disease Society. Behçet Society, depending on however you want to take it, that's what it's called. It's for Behçet syndrome. What I wanted to do in this video was tell you guys about Behçet syndrome and the things that are involved in it, and what people see Behçet syndrome as if they've heard about it, and then actually get it from a view of a sufferer of Behçet syndrome. My sister is 31. She was going to be in this video, but then she decided not to be. She opted out, so she wrote down a list of things which I will read out to you at the end of the video once I've done all the other stuff, of how she feels on a good day, how she feels on a bad day, the tablets that she has to take, all sorts of different things. And I just wanted to put out there the kind of view that no one really knows about, because we see it totally different to how she feels it as well. But then from an outsider who's never even met someone who has it, sees it in a completely different light. No one understands it, and even a sufferer can't even understand it half as much itself. So here we go. I thought I'd start with reading you what the NHS says about Behçet's disease. So they have said it's sometimes referred to as an auto-inflammatory disease. A certain cells of the immune system may begin this inflammation when triggered. It's also known as Behçet syndrome. So signs of them and common symptoms can be genital and mouth ulcers, red and painful like eyes or blurred vision, acne like spots, headaches, painful, stiff and swollen joints. In severe cases, there is a risk of serious and potentially life-threatening problems such as permanent vision loss and strokes. They tell you that you should go to a GP if persistent symptoms kind of happen, like just kind of like every other thing. If you, as if you feel like a lump in your breast or something, you would go to the GP because of any case of like breast cancer, anything like that, or if you couldn't reach your chin to your chest and you had a rash, anything like meningitis. So obviously they tell you if you have any of these symptoms, go to your GP. The cause of Behçet's disease is unknown, although most experts believe it is an auto-inflammatory condition. An auto-inflammatory condition is where the immune system, the body's natural defence against infection and illness — I really wanted to say defence against the dark arts then — mistakenly attacks healthy tissue. In cases of Behçet's disease, it is thought the immune system mistakenly attacks the blood vessels. It's not clear what triggers the problem with the immune system, but it's very likely that both genes and environmental factors play a role. It's much rarer in the UK, affecting an estimated 1,000 people in total. That's it. 1,000 people. Out of how many millions of people are in the UK, it only affects 1,000 people. That's ridiculous. Symptoms of Behçet's disease can begin at any age, although they first usually appear when the person is between 20 and 30 years of age, and less commonly after the age of 50. Basically, what they're saying here is that it is an inflammatory kind of thing within the body, and nothing else is really involved. I mean, they've got some things on point from what I know about Behçet's. What I'd also like to point out here is that there are only 3 Behçet centres in the UK. 3. For 1,000 people who suffer from it, there are 3. If someone is at one side of the country and they can't get to that hospital, what are they going to do? So there's one in Birmingham, there's one in Liverpool, and there's one in London. So my sister, we live right down at the sea, has to travel to London every time that there is a problem, just for a checkup even. She'll spend the entire day there, the entire day, just to have a checkup so people can fiddle around and see what's wrong and see if anything has changed or anything like that. And sometimes they could go, no, nothing has changed. You've still got Behçet's. This may look a little bit worse, but it'll be fine. We want you to do it. They are a brilliant hospital, an absolutely fantastic hospital. And for people who need the hospital, I'm saying hospital way too many times, it sounds really strange now. For people who need the treatment, it is really, really hard for them to get to where they need to get to, because in terms of treatment for Behçet's syndrome, there is not a lot in normal hospitals, and I know that for a fact. The amount of times that I have actually gone to a hospital with my sister, if she's had anything wrong with her and I've gone, look, you need to go to A&E or anything like that, and she doesn't want to go because she knows she's going to spend so much time there, but she has to go. She absolutely has to go. So when we go up there, they say, is there anything that you're taking at the moment, medication? They ask her about her medical history. She'll say she has Behçet's disease. The doctors and nurses at there will not know a lot about Behçet's disease, so they immediately assume that everything that she is going to A&E for at that present time is due to the Behçet's disease. That's not saying that they're not doing a good job. They're doing an absolutely fantastic job. They really are. It's just meaning that we need Behçet specialist in local hospitals, or more local Behçet's places for people who suffer with the syndrome to go to, because London, Liverpool and Birmingham, way too far away, and there's only 3. Now I'm going to tell you my view on Behçet's. I was in school, primary school, when my sister started to faint. Every so often she would just pass out. We didn't know what the problem was. For me, that was scary, because I'm thinking, oh God, she's fainted again, and like something's gonna happen to my sister. This is my older sister. She would go to the hospital all the time. She missed out on the opportunity to go to college because she couldn't go in there all the time because she was too tired. She started feeling exceedingly fatigued, and it was getting worse and worse and worse the more she got older. Her bones started to ache. It then got to the age of about 20 some, I want to say she was 22, I was about 14, and they said, we believe you have ME. That is terrifying, because ME is also an awful disease that needs more treatment, I believe, in the UK, and everywhere else in fact. Some days she'll feel tired, some days she won't feel as tired as the day before. She's always tired though, always tired. If I were to go to work and it would be a day of working from ridiculous o'clock in the morning until ridiculous o'clock at evening, and then come home and I'm absolutely shattered, all I want is a bath and dinner, I'd go, oh my goodness, I'm so tired. And she'd go, oh, me too. Now, from previous experiences, when I do that to other people, they go, no, but you don't understand, I've done this and I've done this and I've done that. It doesn't work like that with Behçet's. It's like a chronic fatigue syndrome involved as well. So you are constantly tired. Like way more tired than you could ever be if you just did a job and carried on doing your job, no matter what the job is. And some of you are probably going to come back at me and go, oh, but I do this as a job and this is exceedingly tiring, and what about people who do this and that? This is totally different. She'll wake up in the day and not know if she's fit to do anything that day. But the next day she could be feeling like, I fancy going shopping today, and she'll decide to walk around. But she can't walk around for a long length of time. Not at all. So if I'm going shopping with her, she'll be walking around and go, I'm feeling tired, we need to sit down. And this could be after about half an hour, because she just can't walk as fast. She can't walk long lengths. Other things that I've learnt with Behçet's is that through a small period of time she went on something called azathioprine, which is a immunosuppressant, and it completely stopped her immune system. So anything that she caught, she would have to go to A&E for. So any time that we caught a flu or a cold or anything like that, she'd have to stay completely out of reach. She couldn't be near us or anything like that. And a hard time for her was during the time our granddad was actually dying. He had a chest infection, and I visited him multiple times because I wasn't on anything like an immunosuppressant, but it was harder for her because she couldn't visit him the amount of times that she wished that she had. And it's because he had a chest infection and she was on immunosuppressants and she couldn't actually go and visit my granddad. So for her, that was horrible once he'd passed away, and I know that she feels that way. So that's another thing. She's now decided that she's not on azathioprine because it did make her feel a lot less lower. Like, we've seen a massive build-up of happiness within her, but a lot of people with Behçet's cannot just come off of azathioprine at all. It's not something you can just do. And other things I've learned is that you can't just decide to make plans. Making plans is not an option. You can't do that. You have to see how she's feeling that day, and if she's not feeling well, you just don't do the plan, or she just doesn't go with you and someone stays home with her, or even if she wants to stay home alone she can, but it's more of we would rather someone stayed with her. I'm actually going to read you the notes that I've never read before. She wrote these down to me, and I said I wanted the true reaction rather than just reading it as if it was from a script. So I'm going to read you everything that she goes through and all the medication she takes and everything. By the way, she wanted me to tell you that if you are actually on azathioprine, you should come off of it if you have Behçet's disease, because it actually prevents you from having a family. It can be very dangerous and harmful to the baby. So if you're trying and you have Behçet's syndrome, come off of those immunosuppressants. Or talk to your doctor first, but come off of those immunosuppressants. So her best day consists of between 1 to 3 mouth ulcers, costochondritis, which is a joint pain, shooting pains and in her fingers and her toes, mild headaches, tired after being awake for about 4 hours, and she can do basic household chores, cleaning, washing, etc., around 6 hours of disturbed sleep. That's her good day. Insomnia is not a part of Behçet's, but all of the symptoms that she goes through in Behçet's causes her to have insomnia. So with all of this on top of it, she never gets sleep. So that's also adding to the fatigue. This is why people don't understand this half as much. Her worst day is 2 hours of disturbed sleep, extreme headache, sickness, sore throat, joint pain, extreme tiredness, all over body hives that lasts for 2 weeks, including her face. I remember that. That was horrible. She came out in red all over her body, and I was at work when she actually came up in lumps that she just couldn't speak. Everything was swollen. She went to the hospital, and I remember her telling me, I feel like I'm going to die. That is not something that you want to hear from your sister. She gets diarrhea and abdominal pain, between 3 to 6 mouth ulcers. That is her worst day. I have insomnia. I get between 2 to 6 hours sleep during a 10 to 12 hour period, disturbed sleep. I have Behçet's involvement in my joints, skin and stomach. Main symptoms are mouth ulcers, genital irritation, hives, headache, abdominal pain and poop problems. Joint pain in arms, legs and hips, extreme tiredness. So she said, touch wood, do not suffer any eye involvement or nervous system. I'm touching all wood here, but sometimes it's too late for those symptoms to kick in. But there are people around the world that have everything that she's got right now, and they have no vision and probable nervous system problems which are involved with the spine. So paralysis, blindness, and everything else included in what you've just heard. Tests that she's had for Behçet's are blood tests. Regularly have blood tests taken to keep an eye on infections. EEG, brain tests with many wires. I have mild epilepsy, but that's not due to Behçet's. She had a fall. That's what that was. ECG, suffer from a condition called costochondritis. It carries chest pains, so ECG detects heart problems. Costochondritis is not a heart condition, it is an inflammation of the rib cage, so she can't sleep on her side. This is also another thing, actually, her ribs. When she was little, she broke her ribs and they have sat in a different place ever since. She fell off a horse. As she got older, they have never developed in the same way, so they've always been a different shape. So it's always kind of been slightly painful. Then she got Behçet's, which is part of costochondritis, is part of Behçet's. So she has costochondritis in her ribs, which cause an even bigger pain because it's an inflammatory pain to the bone. So that's what she also gets as well. So she actually cannot sit down for a long period of time in the same part. We actually have set spaces on our sofas where we sit. So sometimes I'll sit in the armchair or on the big sofa, but she has to sit on a certain sofa because otherwise all the other places hurt her ribs. So she cannot sit anywhere but there. And that includes any kind of, like, if we're going out to the cinema or if we're going to the theatre or anything like that. We went to go and see one of my dad's films a couple of nights ago, and she had to sit, well, a long time for her, and it was only actually about 25 minutes we were in there for the first time. Then we went outside to the bar and had a break, and she said to me, I don't know if I can sit down for much longer, my ribs are starting to hurt. After 25 minutes of sitting down, her ribs started to hurt. She then had to sit down for another hour and 45 minutes for a film, and then another 15 minutes for a Q&A afterwards. She was absolutely in pain, and I know she was. She was in so much pain. She's had a colonoscopy. Obvious what that is, not as bad as people say. I won't go into the details, but it was an interesting time. Gastroendoscopy, worst test I've ever had in my life. A small tube is sent down your throat into your stomach to check for any stomach ulcers. Because Behçet's has a part for stomach ulcers, she had to have a small camera sent all the way down her throat and into her stomach. So she was absolutely, she came home and said that's the worst thing I've ever been through in my entire life. She's had an MRI, a scan of the brain and spine to check for nervous system involvement, and nasal endoscopy, a tube up her nose and down her throat checking for ulcers. So a lot of this is to check to see if she's actually had any more parts of Behçet's around her body, and all of these tests, the majority of them will only ever happen in a Behçet's clinic. You won't really ever get them in a hospital, which is why we need more of these places around the country, so she doesn't have to travel so far just to feel so much pain. She can literally go down the road to the hospital and that'll be it. That's the perfect scenario for all of this. That's all she needs. Medication she's tried but failed. Zopiclone, I think that's what it is. Sleeping tablets, but became addicted. So she's got quite an addictive personality, and she became addicted to these sleeping tablets to see if she could tackle the insomnia and actually sleep over enough time without disturbed sleep so that she wouldn't feel as fatigued, even though with Behçet's you will still feel extremely fatigued. But they didn't work, she got addicted, she had to come off. Cocodamol, a painkiller but became addicted. Cocodamol is also a painkiller but can act as a sleeping drug as well. And I've been on Cocodamol once before and I felt absolutely awful. A lot of people like it, I don't know why. I hated it. I did it because it was a painkiller for a burn that I caught once, and caught a burn. You can't catch burns. It was a burn that I got, and I had to have a Cocodamol. I had two, and I hadn't eaten, and I felt loopy and awful all day and really bleh. So imagine feeling exceedingly tired and then having the Behçet's kind of tired and then having insomnia. Now, doxycycline was for treating skin problems, but she was allergic, so she couldn't carry on with those. And azathioprine is an immunosuppressant used in treatment of Behçet's, but I became very sick and caught every illness around me, which is what I explained to you earlier. The current medication is colchicine, used for treatment in gout, but very good for treating ulcers. Meloxicam, a powerful painkiller for the use of treating joint pain. She has meloxicam, but all of her bones still hurt, and it tends to be the case, so that's generally what happens with meloxicam. Omeprazole to protect her stomach lining from further irritation. So when she said that she had the tube going down her to test for ulcers and all kinds of things, that was generally the case with taking this medicine, just to make sure that nothing actually occurs down there, and if it does, she goes straight to a Behçet's clinic, which we only have 3. Just going to punch that in again. She has a vitamin D supplement to raise vitamin D levels, as her levels are very low, very, very low, she put. Have to have injections every couple of times a year. So every couple of times a year. She has to have injections a couple of times a year. So that's everything that she wrote down. I hope it's kind of descriptive enough. I don't think you can ever really understand Behçet's unless you have it, and even then it's hard to describe it to other people because no one will ever really understand. That's what's so infuriating about it. Something that really annoys me about the government system with all of this is that there is a fit for work system. I have actually not seen this yet, and I wanted to do this while I was here, to do the fit for work system, because what it is it's a government system they have where you fill out a form and they ask you a series of questions, quite strange questions I might put out there, to see if you are fit to work in the working world. And coming from someone who lives with my sister, I know for a fact that she is not fit to work in the working world. That is just a fact. So I am going to try and find this thing, and we will read out a few of the questions and pretend as if we're going through this. Okay, so I tried to do it, and it turns out that I'm actually fit myself, so I cannot go, you have to go through a GP to get a fit for work survey by the looks of things. So I wasn't able to get that, but my sister has tried it before, and the things that she's told me are questions like, can you pick up a pencil and hold it there for 10 seconds, or things like that. How exactly is picking up a pencil going to be, like, you know, okay, you can pick up a pencil, so you can sit behind a counter and press buttons and move things through a scanner. No, this is an inflammatory disease. This is a somewhat mental disease, and also a physical disease in terms of fatigue. So saying that if she were to be employed by someone and then go to work and do it and feel extremely tired, because she's not only had a workload's worth of tired, she's also got the tired that she has from the Behçet syndrome. Next day she could wake up and have to call in sick because she's not well enough to even get up out of bed because of the Behçet's thing. But the day after that she could still feel sick, and then the day after that she could be back into work. No one would hire her for that, but they would never say, because she's already been through the Fit for Work scheme, which I think is absolutely disgusting. I'm just going to put that out there now, because it's not just Behçet's that has that problem, it's a lot of other people, but we won't go into that. To conclude this video, I will let you know now that there will be a link below to my Just Giving page, and you can donate as much money as you possibly can. If you cannot donate any money, passing on this video or the Just Giving page is one step further to pushing Behçet syndrome ahead and letting people know what it's actually about in the best detail possible. And also someone out there else could donate to this as well, but it's also putting the awareness out to as many people as you can to let everyone know that it's not something you can just look at someone and go, they're just a person. For all you know, they could have Behçet's because you couldn't see it. Thank you for watching, and I really hope that this is a video that you can take in, and yeah, I'm gonna have fun climbing those hills, and let's reach that target. Boom.